Ah, welcome, foolish mortals, to our 13 days of Halloween. I am, of course, checking out the two versions of the Haunted Mansion, courtesy of Disney. Now, to be fair, yeah, Disney has not had what I would call the best year, but hey, I'm not going to complain. This was actually pretty damn good. It's just a shame that, it's basically in this year where the older movies suck. But in all fairness, it did pretty good at the box office. Well, as good as a movie can do that basically is floundering. But I did find out that the people who saw the film, like myself, actually did like it. Critics hated it. Of course, they're critics. What are you going to expect from them? And I found I liked it a lot better than the original Haunted Mansion with Eddie Murphy. Nothing against Eddie Murphy. There's still parts of this movie that are actually really good. So for this year, I decided to actually review both of them and kind of compare where each version kind of has something going for it that the other one doesn't. Now, let's just say that the first thing they've got is that this one is much older. There's definitely effects that have been dated, and also it was nowhere near as expensive as this one. This one wasn't even anywhere near Pirates of the Caribbean's budget for Curse of the Black Pearl. So, yeah. But I do feel that this one did a little bit better job, I would say, capturing the essence of the ride. Now, both of these movies had some things that I was actually very surprised with. And it's clear that they did take their time and they did actually develop a lot of stuff. Now, one thing that is clear is that both movies are dealing with a lot of ghosts. Now, in the Eddie Murphy one, the story is basically set around when we start the movie. We see the event that sets up the haunted mansion. We see, Master Gracie losing his girl, and of course, I'm not going to explain how that happens, but hey, you get the idea. However, we then cut to modern times, and we see these flyer for a realty company from the Evans family, Eddie Murphy and his wife. And what happens is um, they basically get invited to the house. They're really successful realtors. They are kind of car salesman like in a way how they do some stuff, but they do actually try to help and they actually are a loving family. The problem is the father is becoming very, very, very um, obsessed to his work, and of course that begins to hurt the family. Later on, they get to this mansion, and as you can imagine, it's it's not the same story. Sorry. Anyhow, so they eventually drive down. They're going for the weekend, and they go down. And what happens is they start to meet the ghosts, and we start to unravel the mystery. What's going on? What exactly happened to these two people? And all this ghostly activity. We learn a lot of ghosts have been trapped at the house, and the original film does actually have a pretty decent stellar cast to it. But in all fairness, I never felt that the original film, even though I continue to own it, it never felt as good as the remake. There are definitely great sequences. There's, good acting from these people, and even the deleted scenes. I'm kind of glad they didn't put them in because it was just like, why? Those scenes didn't work. But the film has the ability to be funny. It has the right amount of scary, and it works very well in that regard. But again, it's starting to date itself now, in my opinion. It's not looking as good. Whereas this film is not a cheap film, to be fair, but it just looks great. They really do set up a lot of good characters here, and oddly enough, there's a lot of really fun little things. Um, so let's get into it. So while I do like the original and I do find a lot of stuff that worked very well, they did a lot of great things. There was a lot of stuff that fit, but there was also stuff they did for the Eddie Murphy movie that was not in the ride. You understand that? That makes total sense. I mean, there's a whole crypt. I mean, we see the the graveyard scene, and it's a freaking graveyard that's like just keeps going and going and going. And it actually did look pretty good. Unfortunately, as you can see from this picture, it doesn't look as good. The house doesn't look as good as the one in the new movie. And I think because it's designed in a certain way, it just doesn't feel like the house in the new movie or like the real house that's in Disneyland and stuff, which is a shame. But it does kind of take away. But I'd still give the original movie, especially since it's like if you can find it, it's like $10. So go for it. All right, now to get into the new one. Now the new one is a little different as we do learn, and it goes back to the actual ride itself. Now in the ride, it said that there are 999 happy haunts with room for one more. This actually applied into the movie, and it becomes a big plot point. Here's the other thing. The other movie is fine, but it's basically told within a span of about a day. This film is told from the span of like at least 2, maybe 3 weeks. And we get to develop with the characters. There's actually a lot going on. Now, in the original movies, just, they come in, they have this adventure and so forth. All of these characters have something that drives them, or they have, um, sorry, or they have something that is like, you know, bringing them down, or something that they need to overcome, or something they need to admit to. For example, Rosie O'Dawson's character, her son, and our friend here, I forget his exact name, I'm sorry. I don't know the actor that well. Um, they have suffered loss. It's not a big thing. It's kind of made pretty clear in the film. Um, Danny DeVito's character is hell bent on getting in this house, and he's like one step from the grave, for crying out loud. You have Owen Wilson, who's dealing with a bit of faith issues and also his own little baggage, and of course you have somebody who's both a sidekick. She's a she's a little bit of a money person, but she's also like she's actually trying to explore stuff. So she's actually becoming an interesting character. And there's of course Jamie Lee Curtis in The Crystal Ball, playing Madame Leota, who gets stuck in the house. Also, you'll notice that it says The Haunted Mansion and Haunted Mansion. So, I'll take what I can get. The big surprise to this film, though, in my opinion, is right there with Jared Leto playing the titular villain of the piece, the Hatbox Ghost. And he does a very good job. He plays a very good job being dangerous. The other thing was is that as I started to study more about the ride and everything, I was absolutely shocked with how much of this movie fits into the ride. Now there are a couple of things that are in here, like the singing busts, that really do fit in to that movie well and don't really pop up in this one. But they have a lot of other stuff. There's the room that sort of stretches and gets longer, and you see the face of all the characters as the pictures continue to go down and they start to come out. Um, there's all of these other characters that pop up. I mean, you have 999 ghosts, and there's also a few that are directly related to other events in other haunted mansions or connected rides in other Disneylands. For example, there's Phantom Manor in, I believe, France. You have the stuff in Tokyo, and there's like this fantasy mystery thing in China, and then of course there's Disney World. I forget how many exactly ones there are, but every single story is really great. The other thing is just the amount of history that goes from the ride into here, and it actually enriches the movie. And it does make for a great thing. The other thing is because this movie is a slow build, it gives you more time to set up the mystery and also set up the characters. We get to know them. That's something I don't see in modern movies really that much anymore. Time to actually get to your characters, get to know them, and like them. And it doesn't feel like you're just trying to make a 3 hour movie. This movie is about 2 hours long, and yet it doesn't feel like a single scene was wasted. All the actors are properly in the way they should be. There's no, as far as I can tell, woke bull, you know what, to hurt the movie. And it actually feels like a good movie. The other thing that's really surprising is they don't overdo the ghosts. Now, in the original Eddie Murphy one, the ghosts can appear whenever they want, looking human. They can appear as ghosts. They can disappear. They can do all this stuff. And yet, in this movie, they they behave more like, you've heard stories of ghosts. They don't always pop up or something, or they're keeping an eye on you, and they materialize when they need to, or when they have to, or when the conditions are right. In fact, one of the times that everything happens on this property is like at midnight, when the clock strikes 13, and we actually see that clock in the movie. Um, and the other cool thing is that this movie did not cost a whole lot to make. The budget on this movie is like $150 million to make it. That's the cheapest movie Disney's made all year. Every other movie starts at 200 million or goes past 300. This movie did a lot of everything it could do live in camera with actors, makeup, every single old school parlor trick you could think of. And it actually makes a better movie because you can actually see in a couple of cases the actors actually being scared, impressed, like, whoa, what the heck was that? Literally like doing stuff, and you could tell that they're like really interacting with the stuff that was going on. And that can actually sell the movie. There's also a lot of ghost characters I fell in love with, even if you don't see them all the time. There's a sea captain character who's actually part of the ride and was actually part of the ride's initial history while it was being developed. He's in the movie, and he's actually one of my favorite characters of the Ghost. There's, of course, all the other stuff. And I'm not going to spoil how the ending of the movie goes, but I can tell you that it is emotional. You will feel for these characters. You understand they're going through some stuff, and I'm going to leave that at that. But at the very, very end, after the afterwards and everything, before we get to the credits, um, there is Halloween being celebrated. We actually see quite a few costumes and stuff. Owen Wilson's character, he's got like a Run DMC costume on, which is pretty cool. You see a bunch of the other characters in all kinds of costumes. Now, I also learned that this movie and even parts of the ride were heavily influenced by ghost stories, and especially the film The Haunting. If you've ever read Shelley Jackson's novel or you've seen the original Haunting, and I've actually reviewed the original Haunting film, and this year I did The Haunting that was made in 1999. I still have to next year do the series they made for Netflix. Um, there was a lot of cool stuff. One of the effects in both movies is, of course, the breathing door, and that's actually in both the book and the original Haunting movie. Plus, remember that Owen Wilson was in the 1999 Haunting, and he worked with Jerry Goldsmith on that. Jerry Goldsmith did the score, but Jerry Goldsmith worked with Robert Wise, who directed the original Haunting movie, when they worked on Star Trek: The Motion Picture. And that's the other funny thing is that in this movie there are actually both in the original Haunting and this one there are at least two actors who have been in Star Trek. In the original one of the guys who was also in The Princess Bride, he played one of the Ferengis, and you know, shit, what's her name? She was in Beetlejuice. You know, Lydia. Um, shit, she played Spock's mom in the remake films. Hey, so there's stuff there. Anyways, so besides all of that, there are a lot of fun characters, a lot of fun gags. There are a lot of fun characters. I really liked it, and I want to see more. The problem is, it's not likely that there's going to be a sequel or another film made for a very long time. Also, um, This mansion looks a lot more like the one that's actually at Disneyland, which is kind of smart. And I just love the way it looks, and it's very good. They also, at the end of the film, they do a bit for the song that you actually hear in the ride, which is pretty cool. Um, there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of things, and it just makes you a lot more. Um, Plus, right now, they have the whole Nightmare Before Christmas setup going on, and that's pretty cool. I would love to go to Disneyland and actually hop on the ride a couple of times just to check everything out, take as many pictures as I could, especially the Hatbox Ghost and a few other things. But what really impressed me was is that both of these films actually still hold up. But I agree, this one is not holding up as well, and uh, it just doesn't hold up as a long-term film. This one, on the other hand, I think, despite the fact that it lost money, despite the fact that I don't think Disney promoted it really all that well. I mean, you have Rosie Dawson right there. Ahsoka, for crying out loud, is in this movie. And and Danny DeVito right there, the freaking penguin, man. And freaking Jamie Lee Curtis. I mean, Michael Myers, Halloween, and you can't give this film a better advertising budget to let everybody know that was coming. I didn't even know this was coming until I saw like a freaking YouTube commercial letting me know it was coming in. And the only reason I didn't go to see it in theaters is because during this time we were busy during the summer with my job and we couldn't do jack. We were lucky if we could go, even rest. And oh man, that sucked. That really sucked. Because I really actually did want to see it. But the good news is at least it came out right around Halloween. And it's actually a fun movie. I do like watching it too. I might watch it a couple of more times. The original is fine, but this one is much better. I mean, it is much better, and it holds up. Plus, I was surprised just how many people actually liked the movie. It's really cool and really nice. I recommend it. I think you should check it out. And I had another video made, but I'm like, you know what? No, I hadn't, I had just watched the original. I was concerned about the new one, but I'm like, screw it. I'm going to buy it. I'm going to see it. And then I scrapped that old video and then I went for this new one. And it worked out great. Again, if you can get this movie, I recommend it. Plus, as you can see, it does come with both the Blu-ray and the DVD, so that's good to know. The original Haunted Mansion is available. And I was actually surprised, like, there's actually VHS copies, I think, floating around. Not bad. I also wasn't expecting this video to be this long, but I am covering two films. Again, they're both good. And I was also, there's one other thing I want to say. I totally was not even aware, totally not even aware that the original film took place in Louisiana, New Orleans. I wasn't, except for like the license plate and a little information on those flyers. There's no, almost no real clue that this movie takes place in Louisiana. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is a New Orleans thing. Everything from Pirates to Haunted Mansion is in the New Orleans part of Disneyland, for crying out loud. I forget what it's exactly called. I think it's what New something Square or something. I can't even remember that right now. And you didn't emphasize that more in the other movie, where in this one it's like all over the place. I mean, they literally just had a funeral in the beginning of this film through a graveyard. They had, the Princess and the Frog villain with a voodoo doctor on the side, even though that's not how a real U-Haul looks. And there was so much more. I loved it. There was, you know, plus I also have to admit that everybody who enters the house in this one, which is another key feature, they can't really leave for very long because the ghosts will follow them and stop them. Hey, can't win every battle. Anyways, I highly recommend it. It's actually a good film. I'm hoping for more, and I can't wait to get back to watching it. Happy Halloween, and I'll see you guys later. Like and subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and I'll see you later.